The ocean is cold tonight. A broad, heaving dark stretches from horizon to horizon, lit only by the pale, indifferent glow of a northern moon. The waves rise and fall like slow breaths from a sleeping giant, and for a moment the world seems untouched by war. No guns, no steel, only wind and water. But below that moonlit calm, the North Atlantic is holding its breath. Because in this alternate year of 1944, history did not unfold as we remember. The war that should have started in 1939 never ignited. Germany, instead of rushing into conflict, turned inward, pouring every resource, every rivet, every scrap of steel into a single vision. A navy powerful enough to break the Atlantic itself, Plan Z. A dream so vast that in our world it collapsed under the weight of reality. But here, in this darker world, the dream lived, not fully but enough. Enough to build a fleet that Europe had not seen in centuries. Enough to challenge even the distant giants across the ocean. And now, after years of silent construction and political chess, that fleet has left its protected harbors. It moves like a shadow along the coasts of Norway and Denmark, engines rumbling beneath decks, crews tense with the knowledge that history is bending beneath their feet. 12 battleships, 4 battlecruisers, 2 carriers, a swarm of cruisers and destroyers, and beneath them, hidden in the black water, a wolfpack hundreds of miles wide. Germany, for the first and only time, has achieved what it always wanted, a navy able to challenge the Atlantic itself. But all dreams create their opposite, and across the ocean, the United States watches, not with fear, but with something far more dangerous. Resolve. Because American intelligence, after months of scattered whispers and intercepted signals, has confirmed the impossible. The Kriegsmarine has moved. The great ships of Plan Z have left port. Their destination is unknown, their intentions ambiguous, but the implications are unmistakable. If this fleet reaches the central Atlantic, it could sever the lifeline to Britain, isolate Europe, and change the future of the free world. And so, the United States makes a decision it has never made before. It gathers the 4 Iowa-class battleships into a single force. The Iowa, the New Jersey, the Missouri, the Wisconsin. A quartet of steel titans, each faster than anything that came before. Each carrying 9 16-inch guns, capable of hurling half-ton shells farther than the Horizon ships built for 2 oceans, brought together for one purpose. But battleships alone cannot face what is coming. And so, behind them, an even greater armada forms carriers with decks glowing under red lamps, cruisers standing in tight formation, destroyers cutting through gray water, fuel ships and supply vessels trailing behind like the tail of a comet. At the center of it all, 4 carriers, Enterprise, Yorktown, Essex, and Bunker Hill. Their air wings restless, engines warming, propellers straining against tie-down chains. The United States Navy has not sent a fleet, it has sent a message. A single order echoes through radio rooms and flag bridges across the Armada: find the Plan Z fleet, engage it, and end it. The ocean is no longer neutral, it has become an arena. Far to the northeast, the first storm clouds gather, rolling low across the sky. The wind sharpens, the waves climb, forming jagged silhouettes against the dim horizon. The weather will be brutal, the visibility poor, the perfect battlefield for men who wish to vanish into smoke and fog. And it is here, in this shifting world of shadow and water, that the 4 Iowa-class battleships cut their way forward, bows rising like swords through each breaking wave. On the Iowa's bridge, midnight blue light spills across radar scopes. Operators make slow, deliberate adjustments. The screens pulse with faint echoes of distant icebergs in cold rain. The captain stands silently behind them, hands clasped behind his back, feeling the vibration of the engines through the deck. He knows the meaning of this mission. He knows the enemy he will face. And somewhere inside him, beneath layers of professionalism and calm, he feels a part of history turning toward him. In the ready rooms of the carriers, pilots sit strapped into their aircraft, their helmets resting loosely in their hands. They speak quietly, exchanging nervous jokes, tapping their feet against metal floors. They know this will be different from the Pacific. This ocean is colder, wilder, less forgiving, and the ships they may face are unlike anything they fought before. Meanwhile, the German fleet advances through the same waters. Aboard Bismarck, newly modernized and bristling with radar dishes, officers gather around plotting tables illuminated by harsh white lamps. The ship hums with new electronics, new systems, a new doctrine. The mistakes of 1941 have been studied, dissected, corrected. Bismarck is no longer a lone hunter. She is part of a machine, a war engine spanning hundreds of miles, connected by encrypted radio nets and reconnaissance aircraft sweeping the sky. On the decks of the H-class battleships, massive turrets sit locked in travel position, their guns longer and thicker than anything in the Pacific. Their crews drill in silence, their breath turning to mist in the cold air. These men know the legends of American battleships. They know about radar-directed gunfire. They know about the speed of the Iowas. But they also know what stands beside them, ships larger than Bismarck, armored like fortresses, designed to fight the world's strongest navy. And in the carrier hangars of Graf Zeppelin, aircraft sit with engines warmed, wings unfolded, mechanics shouting over the roar. For the first time in history, a German carrier is ready for fleet combat. The pilots have trained for years in isolation, landing on improvised wooden decks on the Baltic coast. Now they will face their baptism of fire. Between the surface forces glide the silent predators, U-boats moving in vast arcs, coordinated by long-range reconnaissance planes and encrypted signals. Their captains peer through periscopes at the stormy sky above, waiting for the moment when the Americans sail into the trap. The distance between the two armadas closes. Not quickly, not dramatically, but inexorably, like gravity pulling two stars together. In the next hours, aircraft will rise into the storm, radar screens will flicker with ghosts, destroyers will chase shadows across roaring seas, and somewhere beyond the horizon, the largest naval clash in human history will ignite. For now, only the ocean knows what comes, but soon, the thunder will begin. Dawn never truly breaks in the North Atlantic. It just bleeds slowly, reluctantly, into the sky. A dull gray light spreads across the waves, revealing the heaving surface of an ocean that seems to shudder under the weight of what is coming on board USS Enterprise. The first pilots step out onto the flight deck. The wind claws at their jackets. Spray slaps across their faces. The sky is a solid wall of iron, low clouds streaking by like smoke from a distant fire. Every instinct screams that this is no place for aircraft. Yet the orders stand. Find the German fleet. The carrier's deck crew work like shadows in the half-light, checking tie-downs, adjusting flaps, splashing fuel onto cold metal. Engines cough to life one by one, their propellers whipping the air into a frenzy. A shrill whistle echoes across the deck. Launch the scouts. The first Hellcat moves forward, its wheels slipping slightly on the wet decking. It trembles at the threshold, its pilot pushing the throttle until the roar swallows the wind. For a heartbeat, the ocean seems to pause. Then the aircraft leaps into the storm. One after another, the reconnaissance planes vanish into the curtain of gray, swallowed by cloud and spray. Their mission is simple. Find the impossible. Track the untrackable. Locate a fleet hiding inside storms and using the darkness like a cloak. Hours pass. Aboard the Iowa, the crew waits in a tension that feels almost physical. Radio men lean close to their headsets. Spotters scan the horizon with binoculars chilled by the wind. There is no sign of the Germans, no radar contact worth believing, only empty water and the low rumble of distant thunder. But in war, silence is never safety. Silence is a warning. Far to the northeast, beyond the edge of American radar, the first German scouts spot their prey. An Arado seaplane arcs through the wind, skimming clouds like a ghost. The pilot lifts binoculars and peers down at a faint gray shape cutting through waves. Then another, then a third, a formation too large to be convoys, too fast to be merchant ships, American capital vessels, moving south-southwest. The pilot dips his wings, transmitting coded bursts through the static. Bismarck receives the message first, Tirpitz shortly after. Then, the H-class giants. In the operations room aboard Bismarck, the admiral leans over the chart table and traces a slow line toward the reported sighting. His voice is calm, almost emotionless. But the officers around him understand the weight of his next words. Begin Operation Neptune. All ships to battle formation. Below deck alarm sound. Bulkhead doors slam. Powder bags are hauled up from magazines. Crews run through narrow corridors, their footsteps echoing like distant drums. The greatest German fleet ever assembled swings southward, but this time the Americans are not blind. A single Hellcat breaks through the clouds, its wings shuddering in the wind. The pilot wipes frost from the inside of his canopy and squints ahead. Then he sees it. Not a single ship, not a battle group, an armada. Battleships stretching to the horizon, their wakes carving white scars into the dark sea, carriers turning into the wind, cruisers fanned out in wide arcs, destroyers slicing forward like wolves, the Plan Z fleet in full motion. The pilot draws in a sharp breath, presses the transmit button, and sends the message that will change the course of the coming hours. Enemy fleet sighted, massive formation, coordinates following. On the Iowa's bridge, the radio operator stiffens. Sir, scout reports contact. The captain turns slowly, every muscle tightening. Confirm. Another report follows. Then another, and another. Within minutes, the truth forms like a storm cloud across the plotting table. The entire German Navy is coming for them. A stillness settles over the compartment. Not fear. Focus. Pure, disciplined focus. Then the captain gives the order the crew knew was inevitable. All ships, prepare to launch strike packages. The word moves like a spark through the battle group. Carriers turn into the wind once more, decks vibrating as engines roar to life. Mechanics clear the last chocks. Wings unfold with metallic snaps. Pilots strap in, their gloved hands tightening around throttles. Above the clouds, the weather is no better. But war does not wait for clear skies. Dozens of Helldivers and Avengers burst from the decks, clawing their way upward into the storm. Heavy bomb loads pull them downward, engines protesting, but they climb until the clouds engulf them. Behind them, a second wave forms, then a third. 100 aircraft cutting toward the east. Far ahead, the German Admiralty watches their own radar screens come alive with clusters of moving echoes. The carriers have launched, the battle has begun, yet visibility remains terrible. The winds unpredictable. The pilots on both sides fly more by instinct than by instrument. The ocean below flickers in and out of view as clouds tear past, revealing chaotic whitecaps. Then, suddenly, a dark shape appears ahead. Then another, then a dozen. The American strike group bursts from the clouds directly above the vanguard of the German fleet. The pilots gasp. They knew the Germans had built ships, but not this many. Not like this. Below them glide the O-class battlecruisers, long and sharp like predators. Behind them tower the silhouettes of the H-class battleships, taller than Bismarck, broader. Their turrets, turning like watchful eyes, anti-aircraft guns erupt in fire. Orange tracers streak upward through the gray, the sky turning into a forest of rising death. Black flat clouds blossom around the American aircraft, rattling cockpits, shaking wings. The Helldivers dive. Their engines scream as they fall through the storm, cutting through flak bursts, bomb bay doors open. The ocean rushes up at them. The decks of enemy ships loom, Prinz Eugen firing every gun she has, Blücher turning sharply into the wind, H-39 raising its great turrets toward the sky, Bismarck herself tracking targets with radar-guided precision. Bombs fall. Explosions burst across the sea like white suns, lifting water hundreds of feet into the air. A hit lands on the deck of a cruiser. Another near misses a battleship, showering it with steel and spray. But the German formation is tight disciplined, shielded by layers of anti-aircraft fire. One by one, Helldivers spiral down in flames. Avengers trail smoke streams that vanish into the waves. The sky becomes a graveyard of burning wreckage. The Americans strike, but their losses are heavy. The Germans survive the first blow. Then something worse happens. Long-range German fighters break through the clouds. Bf-109Ts and navalized Ju-88s dive on the retreating American bombers' engines howl. Gunfire flashes, aircraft twist and fall like broken birds. The American survivors struggle back into the storm, limping toward the safety of their carriers. Below them, the German fleet tightens formation and begins accelerating south. They know the Americans are now aware. They know the battle is inevitable. They intend to choose where it happens. And far behind them, U-boats begin to rise. Dozens of periscopes break the surface, all angled west. The wolfpacks are underway. The world's greatest naval confrontation is no longer a possibility. It is a countdown, and the clock has begun. The storm thickens as noon approaches, though the sun never truly shows itself. Clouds race across the sky in torn gray sheets. The wind changes direction again and again, twisting the waves into jagged ramparts that slam against steel hulls. Every ship, American and German alike, feels the strain. But the ocean is no longer the enemy. Now the enemy has a face. On the bridge of USS Missouri, the admiral stands over the chart table. His officers speak in quick, clipped sentences, their voices steady but taut. The latest scout reports confirm what radar begins to whisper through static. The German fleet is closing the distance at flank speed. The Plan Z armada is not running, it is hunting. The admiral scans the horizon, then glances through the rain-streaked windows. The Iowas maintain a diamond formation around the carriers, each vessel plowing through the waves with relentless force. The air is thick with tension. The time for reconnaissance, however imperfect, is ending. He nods once. All carriers, prepare the second strike. The order travels like electricity. Below deck aboard Enterprise, exhausted pilots climb down from their damaged planes, helmets still vibrating from the roar of anti-aircraft fire. Many are shaken, a few are bleeding. One collapses to his knees the moment his boots touch the deck, but they know they will have to return to the sky. And as crews pull wrecked Helldivers aside and rearm the surviving Avengers, another sound begins to rise from beyond the storm. Radio men hear it first, then the pickets, then the bridge crews, a strange hum beneath the wind, growing, multiplying. Aircraft, but not American. Aboard Graf Zeppelin, the flight deck trembles under the weight of launching fighters and dive bombers. Engines scream as the Bf-109Ts accelerate into the wind. Their propellers cut long arcs through the mist, disappearing into the storm like arrows loosed from a bow. This is the first time in history Germany sends carrier aircraft into a true oceanic battle. The pilots know their odds. But they fly anyway. Ju-88Cs follow, their wings loaded with bombs built to tear through steel plating. Arado torpedo bombers lumber behind them, engines coughing in the freezing air. The German raid funnels west, guided by reconnaissance planes and U-boat shadow signals. They rise and fall with the waves below, pushing through walls of rain. Ahead of them, hidden in the swirling cloud layers, is the American task force. The first American radar operator to detect the incoming wave feels his chest tighten, a cluster of echoes. Then 2, then 5. The screen blooms with contacts. He turns toward the captain and speaks a single word. Raid. Suddenly, the American fleet is alive. Battle alarms scream. 1,000 boots slam against metal decks. Gunners race to their stations. Spotlights snap on. Directors begin to turn. Aircraft crews sprint across the carrier's decks. The storm is no longer an obstacle. It is the only cover. As the sirens echo across the water, the German planes burst from the cloud cover like a dark flock. They spread in wide arcs, engines howling, diving toward the American formation. The sky erupts. The Iowas open fire first. Their anti-aircraft batteries unleash a storm of tracers, thin glowing rods of fury streaking through the sky. Shells burst around the German aircraft, filling the air with deadly splinters. The carriers turn hard into the wind, desperately trying to launch the remainder of their fighters before the attack reaches them. Deck crews drag chocks away with bare hands, ignoring the sting of cold rain. The first Bf-109 sweeps low, guns flashing. American fighters that manage to lift off are immediately thrown into a swirling dogfight over heaving seas. Then the Ju-88s dive. Their bomb bays open. Black shapes fall, the ocean braces. A near miss beside the Yorktown throws a wall of water 10 stories high, smashing across the deck and sending sailors tumbling. Another bomb slams into the wake of a cruiser, ripping a plume of spray that showers the bridge in steel shards. But not all miss. One bomb strikes the deck of the escort carrier Casablanca. The thin plating buckles. Fire leaps upward. Smoke billows through the rain as men scramble to contain the flames. A torpedo slams into a Fletcher-class destroyer. The ship shakes violently, lifting from the water as if struck by a giant's fist. Alarms wail as men rush to seal flooding compartments. The German attack is coordinated, relentless, something the Americans never imagined from a navy that relied on U-boats and surface raiders. Now, Germany fights like Japan once fought, with speed, precision, and ruthless ambition. But the American response is overwhelming. The Iowa's anti-aircraft guns track every movement. Hellcats, though outnumbered, fight with terrifying ferocity, diving straight through flak lines to tear into German bombers. A pair of Avengers, trapped in the chaos, turn into makeshift fighters, firing their machine guns at incoming torpedo planes. Smoke clouds drift over the ocean. Burning aircraft fall like falling stars. The last wave of German bombers turns away, fuel running low. Only a scattered handful return toward Graf Zeppelin. Many will not make it home. The storm will take them. When the echoes of battle fade, the American fleet stands wounded but alive. Casablanca burns but remains afloat. 2 destroyers trail smoke, limping in the waves. The Yorktown lists slightly, pumps working to stabilize her. But no carrier is sunk. No battleship is crippled. The Germans have drawn blood, but they have not broken the shield, and now they have revealed their position. The American admiral's voice is steady when he speaks the next order. All capital ships, prepare to engage. The 4 Iowas shift formation, bows turning northeast, directly toward the reported bearing of the German battleships. Their 16-inch guns elevate slightly, great steel throats ready to speak. Far ahead, through the storm, faint flashes illuminate the sky. German guns firing at extreme range, probing for targets, testing the distance, feeling the shape of the coming disaster. Radar operators aboard Iowa whisper numbers, ranges, bearings, closing speeds. The 2 fleets are now within the shadow of each other's reach. On the bridges of the H-class ships, spotters brace themselves against the wind. Turrets rotate with a deep mechanical groan. Powder bags are hauled into place. Breeches lock shut. The first true salvos of the battle are seconds away. In the heart of the U-boat formation, captains adjust their angles, listening to distant rumblings through the ocean, like thunder rising from the deep. The ocean seems to freeze, even the wind pauses. Then the horizon lights up. 16-inch shells arc across the sky, trailing fire. German guns answer with a roar that shakes the clouds. The duel begins. The thunder returns. And for the first time in history, the Iowas face a fleet built to kill them. The first salvos lift into the air like burning comets, their bright arcs cutting through the storm-dark sky. A moment later, the world erupts. Columns of water rise hundreds of feet high as German 11-inch and 16-inch shells plunge into the sea around the American formation. The Iowas heel sharply, turning into evasive maneuvers at flank speed. Decks tremble, bulkheads groan. Every man aboard feels the violent percussion rolling through steel. On the H-39 Württemberg, spotters shout corrections, their voices nearly drowned by wind and thunder. The massive ship alters course, sliding gracefully across the waves despite her size. Turrets traverse. Breaches slam shut. Next salvo, fired. This time, the shells land closer. The air smells of cordite and cold salt. The sky flashes in orange bursts as each shot leaves a bright wound in the storm. The ocean between the two fleets churns with shattered waves and cratered foam. Aboard USS Iowa, the gunnery officer shouts coordinates. Radar locks. Turrets elevate. Fire! The ship convulses. 3 16-inch guns vomit fire. The deck shakes as if struck by lightning. Shells scream across the sky. They fall toward the German battle line like a judgment. One slams into the upper belt of the O-class Odin, punching through her armor at an angle that no designer ever planned for. It detonates deep inside the hull, sending a blast through compartments and erupting in a gout of flame through the midship's vents. Odin lists, her speed drops, her own guns falter, but she does not die. The German line responds with fury. Bismarck and Tirpitz fire in perfect unison, their upgraded systems calculating solutions with German precision. Twin salvos burst like suns over the Iowa formation. Shells plunge dangerously close to USS New Jersey, geysers sweeping men from exposed decks. Another round slams into a nearby cruiser, shattering her bow and flooding forward compartments. The ocean becomes a plain of intersecting shockwaves. The storm becomes an amplifier. The sound is beyond thunder. It is as if the sea itself is breaking apart. Then the worst moment arrives, the U-boats. 20 of them rise in the shadow of the battle, guided by encrypted bearings, each captain reading the flickering silhouettes through periscopes streaked with spray. They have waited for this exact moment. They have been still, patient, silent. Now they strike. Torpedoes leave their tubes in brilliant white trails, 30, 40, nearly 50 of them slicing toward the American formation. On the carriers, alarms wail. Destroyers surge into action, turning hard to intercept. Depth charges drop into black water. Fletcher-class escorts fire quick-release patterns into the waves, but the torpedoes are already too close. The first one hits a cruiser, Baltimore-class, beneath her forward magazine. The explosion hurls fire and steel skyward, and the great ship begins to slide under. Bow first, her hull glowing orange. Another torpedo slams toward USS Missouri, intercepted at the last second by a heroic destroyer that throws itself into the path, splitting the ocean as the blast tears its spine open. Men scream. Steel bends. Oil erupts across the water, but the Iowas keep moving. They cannot stop. They cannot even turn to help. To break formation now would be death, and ahead of them, the true giants wait. The H-41 Siegfried and H-42 Friedrich der Grosse emerge through the mist like mountains. Their guns are larger, heavier, built for a war Germany never fought. They propel shells the weight of cars across miles of storm in seconds. One salvo targets USS Wisconsin. The first misses. The second misses. The third finds her. A shell crashes through the aft deck, detonating just above secondary magazines. Fire streaks upward. Men are thrown across the deck. Wisconsin staggers but does not fall. Her own turrets swing, battered but alive. They fire. And their accuracy is legendary. 3 shells plunge through the armored deck of Siegfried, ripping open her hangar and starting a chain of explosions that race along the midsection. Smoke pours from her superstructure. Her speed drops sharply. She is out of the fight, but not yet sunk. The battle becomes chaos. Carriers launch whatever aircraft they can through the gale, pilots screaming down through sheets of rain to drop torpedoes between towering curtains of spray. German fighters claw at them. Bf-109s diving with murderous intent, their guns flickering in white bursts. An Avenger torpedo bomber takes a direct hit, its wing sheared away, but the pilot holds steady long enough to release his payload toward Friedrich der Grosse. The torpedo strikes. The great ship shudders. Flooding begins, another dent in the armor of Plan Z. But the German center still stands. Bismarck, Tirpitz, 3 H-class ships still nearly untouched, and the O-class rearranging themselves for a flanking attack. The American admiral sees it, sees the trap. The Germans are trying to encircle the Iowas, pinning them against a curtain of U-boats and forcing them into a crossfire. It must be broken now. He gives the only order left. All Iowas, turn toward the enemy. The battleships swing their bows directly into the heart of the German line. They are charging. Speed climbs past 30 knots despite the storm. Spray lashes the decks. Steel groans as the waves hammer their hulls and the guns fire, again and again and again. Shells the size of tree trunks roar into the sky. Flashes illuminate the storm like lightning. The ocean boils in the fury of each impact. One salvo lands on Hessen, an H-39. Her forward turret erupts. Flames engulf the bow. She veers off course. Another salvo shatters the bridge of the O-class Wotan. Her communication systems fail. She drifts into the path of Prince Eugen. The two ships collide in a horrific grinding of steel. The German line begins to fracture, but the Iowas have paid a terrible price. USS Wisconsin lists from multiple hits. Her aft guns silenced. USS New Jersey bleeds fire from two shattered decks. Missouri's radar mast is destroyed by a near miss, billowing sparks into the storm. Iowa herself takes a glancing hit that rips away the starboard 20mm mounts, sending men into the sea. This is no victory. This is survival, barely. And yet, something shifts. A sudden absence of return fire from the German center. A silence where there should be thunder. When the storm momentarily thins, the truth emerges through the fog. Friedrich der Grosse is dead in the water. Siegfried burns bow to stern. Odin is sinking slowly, stern first. Prince Eugen struggles to stay afloat after the collision. Only Bismarck, Tirpitz, and one H-class remain fully operational. 3 Titans, against 4 wounded giants. The admiral looks out into the fading light and understands the full weight of what happens next. The battle will end tonight, one way or another. He orders the final push. The Iowas advance. The Germans turn to meet them. The last exchange begins. 4 American broadsides roar into the gray evening. 3 German broadsides answer. Flashes tear open the dark. Steel screams. Ships groan. Men pray. The last H-class takes a direct hit to her magazines. A glowing fissure splits across her hull. She erupts in a column of fire that pierces the storm clouds themselves. Tirpitz loses steering after a torpedo from a surviving Avenger slams into her rudder. She drifts helplessly, still firing. A wounded beast refusing to fall. Bismarck fights alone. She turns her guns on Iowa. Iowa turns hers on Bismarck. 2 legends, 2 empires, 2 destinies. Their final salvos pass each other in the dark. 2 arcs of fire crossing like blades. The shells strike within seconds of each other. Iowa's blows tear open Bismarck's midsection. Bismarck's final round smashes into Iowa's forward superstructure, shredding radar, ripping open compartments, buckling decks. Both ships burn. Both ships slow. Both ships refuse to sink. The ocean becomes quiet again. The wind softens. The clouds begin to part. Fire glows on the waves like dying stars. When dawn finally rises, it reveals an ocean filled with drifting steel, burning oil, scattered wreckage, and towering shapes that refuse to kneel. The American fleet, shattered, bleeding, but afloat, surrounds the crippled remnants of the German armada. Bismarck drifts in a slow circle, her guns silent. Tirpitz lists beyond saving. The last functional O-class limps toward the Norwegian coast. The U-boats have vanished into the deep, and the 4 Iowas, blackened and wounded and forever changed, stand in a line across the dawnlit sea. They do not look like victors. They look like survivors. The admiral steps onto Missouri's bridge wing. The cold wind hits him full in the face. He looks at the horizon, at the smoke, at the graves of thousands of sailors. And he whispers something, no microphone records. A quiet sentence, a truth carried only by the wind. There are no winners out here. The battle ends not with triumph, but with silence. A silence earned through fire. A silence that bears the weight of history turned on its axis. A silence that asks a question no one aboard any surviving ship will ever forget. What would have happened if either side had hesitated? The narrator breathes once more, and in that pause, as the waves roll and the wreckage drifts across the Atlantic, the story closes, not with certainty, but with reflection. If you want to explore more worlds like this, I'll be here, waiting beyond the horizon.